Park Do-hyun walked through the crowded dock of orbital station Kepler-7 with his hands in his jacket pockets. The station was loud and busy. Ships from many worlds came and went every hour. Strange aliens walked past him, some tall with many arms, others short with thick skin like stone. Do-hyun did not look at them. He had seen it all before. He was 34 years old. He owned a small freight ship called the Steady Sparrow. It was not a beautiful ship. The paint was old and the engine made strange sounds sometimes. But it was his. He carried cargo from one station to another, one planet to the next. It was simple work. Lonely work. Do-hyun had no family waiting for him anywhere. His parents died when he was young. He never married. He had a few friends, but they were scattered across the galaxy, and he rarely saw them. Most days, he talked only to dock workers and cargo managers. Then he returned to his ship, ate alone, and slept alone. Today was supposed to be normal. Pick up cargo. Deliver cargo. Get paid. Move on. But as he walked toward his loading bay, he heard shouting. A group of tall aliens stood near a large diplomatic vessel. They had silver blue skin that seemed to glow under the station lights. Their faces were sharp and angular, with high cheekbones and large eyes. Do-hyun recognized them as Velrani. They were a proud species, known for their strict social rules and their cold way of thinking. The Velrini were arguing loudly in their clicking language. Their hands moved in sharp gestures. They seemed angry about something. Then Do-hyun saw her. A female Velrani sat alone on a cargo crate, away from the arguing group. She wore beautiful clothes made of deep purple fabric that shimmered like it contained tiny stars. Her silver blue skin was smooth, and her large amber eyes stared at nothing. She sat very still, like a statue. Do-hyun stopped walking. Something about her made him unable to look away. A dock worker named Gus walked over to Do-hyun. Gus was a short man with a thick beard and oil stains on his uniform. He worked at this station for 20 years and knew everything that happened here. Sad thing, that, Gus said, nodding toward the female Velrani. What happened? Do-hyun asked. She was supposed to be a bride. Political marriage to some Velrani commander. Big, important guy. Gus shook his head. But when she got here, he refused her. Refused her? Why? She turned 200 cycles old. For Velrani, that means she's past her best years for having children. The commander said she's too old now. No good for giving him heirs. Gus spat on the ground. So he rejected her. Right here at the dock. In front of everyone. Do-hyun looked at the woman again. 200 cycles. By human standards, she would live for hundreds more years. She looked healthy and strong. But to the Velrani, she was now worthless. What will happen to her? Do-hyun asked. Gus shrugged. They're deciding now. Maybe send her back to her homeworld in shame. Maybe just leave her here. Either way, her life is over. She was raised from childhood to be a bride. That was her only purpose. Now she has nothing. The Velrani officials stopped arguing. One of them, a tall male with a scar across his face, walked toward the woman. He dropped a small case at her feet. Then he said something harsh in their language and walked away. The other officials followed him, back to their ship. They left her sitting there, alone, abandoned. The dock workers watched for a moment, then returned to their jobs. The station continued its busy movement. Ships came and went. Cargo was loaded and unloaded. Life moved on, but the woman did not move. Do-hyun stood there for a long time. He watched her sit in perfect stillness, her hands folded in her lap. Her amber eyes were empty. She did not cry. She did not speak. She simply existed, like something thrown away and forgotten. He knew that feeling. He knew what it was like to feel invisible. To feel like you did not matter to anyone in the entire universe. Every night on his empty ship, eating his meals alone, he felt that same hollow ache in his chest. People walked past the woman without looking at her. She was a problem that belonged to someone else. She was not their concern, but Do-hyun could not walk past. He did not know why. He was not a hero. He was not brave or special. He was just a lonely man who carried boxes across the stars. There was nothing he could offer this woman. No wealth, no status, no power. Yet his feet carried him toward her anyway. She looked up as he approached. Her amber eyes focused on him for the first time. He saw fear there and confusion. Humans had a certain reputation in the galaxy. They were known for being emotional, unpredictable, and sometimes violent. Do-hyun sat down on the cargo crate next to her. He left some space between them. He did not want to frighten her. "Hello," he said in Galactic Common. "My name is Do-hyun." She stared at him for a long moment. Then, in a soft voice, she answered, "I am called Yuna. It is the name I chose for speaking with other species." "Yuna," he repeated. "That's a pretty name." She looked away. "Why are you here? What do you want from me?" Do-hyun thought about her question. He was not sure how to answer it. He did not know what he wanted. He only knew that he could not leave her sitting here alone. "I don't know," he said honestly. "I just saw you sitting here, and I thought maybe you could use some company." Yuna turned to look at him again. Her eyes searched his face, looking for lies or hidden motives. She found none. "Company," she repeated, as if the word was strange to her. "I do not understand. What do you gain from this?" "Nothing," Do-hyun said. "Sometimes people just help each other. That's all." Yuna was silent. In her entire life, no one had ever offered her anything without expecting something in return. This human made no sense to her, but for the first time since she was abandoned, she did not feel completely alone. They sat together on the cargo crate for a long time. The station moved around them like a river flowing past two rocks. Ships landed and departed. Aliens of many species walked by, carrying bags and boxes, talking in dozens of languages. None of them paid attention to the human and the Varani sitting quietly in the corner. Do-hyun did not push Yuna to talk. He simply sat with her, watching the station activity. When she was ready, she would speak. Until then, his presence was enough. Finally, Yuna broke the silence. "I do not know what to do now," she said. Her voice was calm, but Do-hyun could hear the emptiness beneath it. "I was trained since I was a child. My only purpose was to become a bride, to marry a powerful man and give him children. Everything I learned was for this. What did they teach you?" Do-hyun asked. "Diplomacy. How to speak with important people. How to manage a large household. How to walk, how to dress, how to be beautiful." She looked down at her shimmering purple robes. "I can recite the entire history of the Voran noble houses. I know 3,000 poems by memory. I can dance 17 traditional forms." "That sounds impressive," Do-hyun said. "It is useless now." Yuna's hands tightened in her lap. "Without a husband, I am nothing. I have no skills that matter. No way to survive on my own. I was property, and now I am broken property. That is all." Do-hyun felt a deep sadness wash over him. This woman had spent 200 years preparing for a single purpose. And in one moment, standing on this dock, everything she worked for was taken from her. "Can you go home?" he asked. "To what?" Yuna replied. "My family gave me away when I was 5 years old. I have not seen them since. They received payment for me. If I return, I bring shame to them. I prove that their daughter was worthless." She shook her head. "I cannot go back. What about finding work? Starting a new life?" Yuna made a sound that might have been a bitter laugh. You do not understand. I am 200 cycles old. In Valmani culture, a woman my age without a husband is lower than a servant. No one will hire me. No one will help me. I will be invisible until I die. Don was quiet for a moment. He thought about his own life, his empty ship, his lonely nights. He was invisible too, in his own way. No one waited for him at any port. No one cared if he lived or died between the stars. Two invisible people sitting on a cargo crate in a busy station. What do you want? Do-hyun asked suddenly. Yuna looked at him with confusion. What? What do you want? Not what you were trained to want. Not what others expect from you. What do you want for yourself? The question seemed to break something inside her. Her amber eyes widened. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. She stared at Do-hyun like he had asked her to explain the meaning of life. No one has ever asked me that, she whispered. Then maybe it's time someone did. Yuna was silent for a long time. When she spoke again, her voice was very small. I do not know. I have never been allowed to want anything for myself. I only wanted to be good enough. To make my trainers proud. To be chosen. A single tear rolled down her silver blue cheek. I was not good enough. Do-hyun reached out slowly and placed his hand on hers. Her skin was cool and smooth, like touching polished stone. She flinched at first, but did not pull away. Where I come from, Do-hyun said, we have a different way of thinking. We believe that every person has value, no matter their age. We marry for love, not for politics. My grandmother married my grandfather when she was 45 years old. They were happy together for 30 years. Yuna listened carefully. These ideas were strange to her, but something about them felt warm. On Earth, Do-hyun continued, 200 years old would make you incredibly wise. People would respect you. They would want to learn from your experience. Earth sounds like a strange place, Yuna said. It is. But strange is not always bad. Do-hyun took a deep breath. He was about to do something crazy. Something that made no logical sense. But his whole life, he had played it safe. He had followed the rules. And where had it gotten him? Alone on a small ship, carrying boxes for credits. Maybe it was time to do something different. I have an idea, he said. It might sound crazy. Please hear me out. Yuna nodded slowly. Marry me. Her amber eyes went wide. What? Marry me, Do-hyun repeated. Not for love, not yet anyway. Not for children or politics, but for protection. If you are married to a human, you have legal rights. You can travel freely. You have citizenship. No one can send you back to the Varani. But why would you do this? Yuna asked. You gain nothing from this arrangement. I gain a companion, Do-hyun said simply. Someone to talk to on long trips. Someone to share meals with. I've been alone for a long time, Yuna. Maybe too long. This is madness, Yuna said. You do not know me. I know that you were thrown away by people who should have valued you. I know that you're scared and alone. I know that you deserve better than being left on a dock like broken cargo. Do-hyun squeezed her hand gently. And I know that no one should face the universe alone if they don't have to. Yuna was trembling now. Everything she knew told her this was wrong. Humans were strange creatures. This man was a stranger. There had to be a trick, a hidden motive. But when she looked into his eyes, she saw only kindness. Simple, genuine kindness. If I say yes, she said slowly, what happens next? We find an efficient. We sign the documents. Then we go to my ship, and we figure out the rest together. And if you ever want to leave, you're free to go. No chains, no obligations. Just two people helping each other survive. Yuna looked at the station around her. Ships were leaving for distant stars. People were living their lives, chasing their dreams. For 200 years, she had never made a choice for herself. Maybe it was time to start. "Yes," she said quietly. "I will marry you, Park Do-hyun." Do-hyun smiled. It was a warm smile that reached his eyes. "Then let's go find someone to make it official." They stood up together. Yuna picked up her small case of belongings, and side by side, they walked into the crowded station to begin a new chapter of their lives. The Steady Sparrow was not a large ship. It was built for one person, and now 2 people lived inside it. The first weeks were difficult and awkward for both of them. Do-hyun gave Yuna his sleeping cabin and moved his bed into the cargo hold. The cargo hold was cold and smelled like machine oil, but he did not complain. Yuna felt guilty about taking his room, but he told her it was fine. He had slept in worse places. They shared meals in the tiny galley, which was barely big enough for 2 people to sit. Do-hyun cooked simple food from his homeworld. Rice and vegetables and sometimes meat when they could afford it. Yuna had never eaten human food before. The flavors were strange to her, but she learned to enjoy them. At first, they did not talk much. Yuna spent most of her time in her cabin, staring at the stars through the small window. She was trying to understand her new life. Everything she knew was gone. Her purpose, her identity, her entire way of seeing the world had been destroyed in a single day. Do-hyun gave her space. He understood that she needed time. He focused on his work, flying the ship from station to station, picking up cargo and delivering it. The routine was familiar and comfortable, but slowly, Yuna began to come out of her shell. One day, she asked if she could sit in the cockpit while he flew. Do-hyun said yes. She sat in the co-pilot seat and watched him work the controls. She asked questions about the ship, about navigation, about the stars they passed. Do-hyun was happy to teach her. He showed her how to read the star charts, how to calculate fuel consumption, how to communicate with station controllers. Yuna listened carefully and remembered everything. Her memory was excellent from years of training. Within a month, she could navigate the ship by herself. Within 2 months, she was handling communications with cargo clients. Her diplomatic training made her skilled at negotiation. She got better prices than Do-hyun ever had. "You're good at this," Do-hyun said one evening after she closed a deal that earned them 20% more than expected. "I am useful?" Yuna asked. There was hope in her voice, but also fear, as if she still expected to be thrown away again. "You're more than useful," Do-hyun said. "You're essential. I don't know how I managed before you came." Yuna smiled. It was a small smile, but it was the first real smile Do-hyun had seen from her. It made his heart feel warm. As the months passed, news of their marriage spread through the Galactic network. At first, it was just gossip among dock workers. A human married a rejected Volrani bride. How strange. How unusual. But then the story reached the wider networks. Human news channels picked it up. Social media spread it across a dozen worlds. People began talking about the lonely freight hauler who gave a home to an abandoned woman. The Volrani were not happy. They saw the marriage as an insult. How dare a human claim what they had thrown away? It made them look cruel and foolish. Volrani diplomats complained to human governments, but there was nothing illegal about the marriage. It was done properly, with all the right documents. Humans, however, loved the story. They saw Do-hyun as a hero. Online forums celebrated him as an example of human kindness and compassion. People wrote songs about him. Artists drew pictures of him and Yuna. Some people even made shirts with his face on them. Do-hyun was embarrassed by all the attention. He did not think he had done anything special. He just helped someone who needed help. That was all. But Yuna began receiving messages. Hundreds of them. Thousands. They came from humans and aliens across the galaxy. People who had been rejected by their families. People who were told they were too old, too ugly, too different. They wrote to Yuna telling her their stories. They told her she was beautiful and valuable and worthy. At first, Yuna did not know how to respond. She sat in her cabin, reading message after message, tears streaming down her face. These strangers cared about her. These people she never met saw her as a person, not as property. She started writing back. She thanked each person for their kind words. She told them they were worthy too. She told them they were not alone. One night, she came to Do-hyun in the galley. He was eating a bowl of noodles and reading cargo reports on his tablet. She sat across from him and waited until he looked up. "I want to thank you," she said. "For what?" "For everything. For seeing me when no one else did. For giving me a chance." She reached across the table and took his hand. "I was raised to believe that my only value was in my body, in my ability to have children. But you showed me that I am more than that." Do-hyun set down his tablet. He held her hand gently. "You always were more than that," he said. "You just needed someone to remind you." "I am starting to believe it," Yuna said. "And I am starting to believe something else too." "What's that?" She looked into his eyes. Her amber gaze was steady and warm. "I am starting to believe that coming to that dock was not the worst thing that happened to me. It was the best thing, because it led me to you." Do-hyun felt his heart skip a beat. He had married Yuna to help her. He had expected friendship at most. But sitting here now, holding her hand, looking into her eyes, he felt something more. Something that felt like the beginning of love. "We should get some sleep," he said softly. "Long day tomorrow." Yuna nodded and stood up. But before she left the galley, she leaned down and kissed his cheek. Her lips were cool and soft against his skin. "Good night, husband," she whispered. Then she was gone, leaving Do-hyun sitting alone with a warm feeling spreading through his chest. Outside the window, the stars shone bright and endless. And for the first time in many years, Do-hyun did not feel lonely. Commander Tavo stood on the bridge of his warship, the Iron Fist, and stared at the reports on his screen. His sharp face was twisted with anger. His silver blue skin seemed darker than usual, a sign of deep frustration among the Valkyrie. The human news networks would not stop talking about the marriage. Every day, there were new stories, new interviews, new songs and poems celebrating the human who married the abandoned bride. And in every story, Commander Tavo was the villain, the cruel officer who threw away a woman because she was too old. His reputation was ruined. Other commanders laughed at him behind his back. The High Council had called him to answer questions about the incident. His chances for promotion were gone, all because of one worthless human and one worthless woman. Tavo made a decision. He would fix this problem. He would bring Yuna back and show the galaxy that the Valkyrie did not tolerate insults from lesser species. He tracked the steady Sparrow through the shipping networks. The small freight ship was heading toward Neutral Station 12, a trading hub in unclaimed space. It would arrive in 3 days. Tavo set a course to intercept. On the steady Sparrow, Do-hyun and Yuna had no idea they were being hunted. They were playing a card game that Do-hyun had taught her. It was called Go Stop, and Yuna had become very good at it. She won 3 games in a row. "You're cheating," Do-hyun said, but he was smiling. "I am not cheating. I am simply better than you." Yuna gathered the cards with a satisfied expression. "Perhaps you should have married someone less intelligent. Where would be the fun in that?" They laughed together. These small moments of happiness had become common in the past months. What started as a marriage of convenience was becoming something deeper. They had not spoken about it yet, but both of them felt it. The warning alarm interrupted their game. Do-hyun rushed to the cockpit. On the scanner, a large ship was approaching fast. Its signature was Velreni military. "That's a warship," Dahyun said, his face going pale. Yuna stood behind him, looking at the screen. She recognized the ship's identification code. "The Iron Fist," she whispered. "That is Commander Tivo's vessel. He has come for me." The communication system crackled. A harsh voice spoke in Galactic Common. "Human vessel Steady Sparrow. This is Commander Tavo of the Velreni Empire. You are carrying stolen Velreni property. Power down your engines and prepare to be boarded." Dohyun grabbed the communicator. "This is Park Dohyun. There is no stolen property on this ship. Yuna is my wife, married under galactic law. Your so-called marriage is not recognized by the Velreni Empire. The female belongs to us. She will be returned for proper disposal. If you resist, you will be destroyed." Yuna put her hand on Dohyun's shoulder. "He will kill you. Perhaps it is better if I go with him. You have already done so much for me." "No." Dahyun's voice was firm. "I made you a promise. No one is taking you anywhere against your will." He opened a different communication channel. This one broadcast on all human frequencies. "This is Park Do-hyun of the Steady Sparrow. I am a human citizen being threatened by a Velreni warship. They wanted to take my wife. I am asking for any humans who can hear this message to help me." Then he waited. The Iron Fist moved closer. It was massive compared to the Steady Sparrow. One shot from its weapons would turn the small freight ship into dust. Commander Tavo spoke again. "No one is coming to help you, human. You are alone out here. Surrender now or die." But Tavo was wrong. The first ship appeared on the scanner 30 minutes later. It was another freight hauler, bigger and older than the Steady Sparrow. Its pilot, a woman named Captain Hana, sent a message. "Hey, Diane. Heard you needed some backup. Mind if I join the party?" Then another ship appeared. And another. And another. Within 2 hours, 17 human ships had arrived. They came from every direction. Freight haulers. Transport ships. A retired military cruiser piloted by veterans who had heard the call. Private vessels crewed by volunteers who decided that this was a fight worth joining. They formed a wall between the Steady Sparrow and the Iron Fist. Captain Hana spoke for all of them. "Commander Tavo, you are now facing 18 human vessels. We suggest you leave." Tavo was shocked. This made no sense. These humans were risking their lives for one man and one woman they did not even know. Why would they do this? "You're all insane," Tavo said. "I have a warship. I can destroy you all." "Maybe," Captain Hana replied. "But we'll take some of you with us. And when the galaxy sees that you attacked unarmed civilian ships just to kidnap one woman, your empire will face consequences you cannot imagine." Dohyun added his voice. "Yuna is one of us now. She is human in every way that matters. And humans do not abandon family." The standoff lasted for 6 hours. Both sides waited, neither willing to make the first move. News networks across the galaxy broadcast the situation live. Billions of beings watched the tiny fleet of human ships facing down a Velreni warship. Finally, a message came from the Galactic Council. They had reviewed the situation and ruled that Yuna's marriage to Dohyun was legally binding. She was a citizen of Earth now. The Velreni had no legal claim to her. Commander Tavo had lost. He stared at the human ships on his screen. These small, weak vessels had defeated him without firing a single shot. Not through strength, but through something he could not understand. "This is not over," Tavo said. But his voice was hollow. He ordered his ship to turn away. The Iron Fist jumped to hyperspace and disappeared. On the Steady Sparrow, Dohyun slumped in his chair. His hands were shaking. He had never been so scared in his entire life. Yuna wrapped her arms around him from behind. She was crying, but they were happy tears. "You stayed," she said. "You could have let me go. You could have saved yourself. But you stayed." "Of course I stayed." Do-hyun turned to hold her. "I meant what I said. You're family now." Outside the window, the 17 ships were departing one by one. Their pilots sent messages of congratulations and support. Captain Hannah sent a final note. "Take care of each other. And if you ever need help again, just call." Yuna watched the ships leave. These humans had risked everything for her. They did not know her. They gained nothing from helping her. But they came anyway. "Your species is very strange," she said softly. Do-hyun laughed. "I know, but strange is not always bad, remember?" Yuna smiled and leaned her head against his shoulder. "No," she agreed. "It is not." 5 years had passed since the standoff with Commander Tavo. Many things had changed for Do-hyun and Yuna. They no longer flew the Steady Sparrow. They now owned a much larger ship called the Silver Dawn. It was a beautiful vessel with clean lines and a powerful engine. There was room for cargo, for passengers, and for a crew of 8 people. Their trading company had grown successful, but they did not just hire anyone. They specifically looked for people who had been thrown away by the galaxy. People who were told they were worthless. People who had nowhere else to go. Their chief engineer was a Kovati named Bora. He was born with a genetic defect that made one of his arms weaker than the other. On his homeworld, this made him unemployable. His family abandoned him at a labor station when he was young. Do-hyun found him working for scraps and offered him a job. Now he kept the Silver Dawn running better than any ship in the sector. Their pilot was a Deshan named Marries. She lost her sight in an accident 3 years ago. Her hive abandoned her immediately, declaring her useless. But Do-hyun learned that Deshans could pilot using sound and vibration. He modified the cockpit with audio systems that let Marries fly. She was now one of the best pilots in the region. Their communications officer was a young human woman named Somi. She grew up in the Earth foster system and aged out with no family and no support. She was living on the streets when Yuna found her at a station. Now she handled all their business, negotiations, and was studying to become a diplomat. Each member of the crew had a similar story: rejected, abandoned, forgotten, and then found by Do-hyun and Yuna and given a second chance. Yuna herself had changed the most. She was no longer the silent, broken woman who sat alone on a cargo crate. She had become a voice for the voiceless. She spoke at conferences across the galaxy about the treatment of marginalized people. She testified before the Galactic Council about the cruel practices of many cultures, including her own. Her words had power, because she lived what she spoke about, because she survived what many did not. 3 worlds had already started reform movements because of her testimony. Laws were changing. Old traditions were being questioned. It was slow progress, but it was real. And somewhere along the way, Do-hyun and Yuna had fallen in love. Not the practical arrangement they started with. Real love. Deep love. The kind that made Do-hyun's heart race when she walked into a room. Even after 5 years. Last month, they renewed their marriage vows on Earth. The ceremony was small, held in Do-hyun's hometown in Korea. His elderly mother was there, crying happy tears and calling Yuna her daughter. A few friends came. Captain Hannah flew all the way from the outer colonies to attend. Yuna wore a traditional Korean hanbok that Do-hyun's mother had made for her. The red and blue fabric looked beautiful against her silver blue skin. When Do-hyun saw her walking toward him, he cried too. "I love you," he said during the ceremony. "I loved you from the moment you looked at me with those amber eyes and asked why I was being kind. I just didn't know it yet." "I love you too," Yuna replied. "You saw me when I was invisible. You gave me worth when I thought I had none. You taught me that I am more than what I was made to be. They kissed under the Korean sky, and the small crowd cheered. Now, 1 month later, the Silver Dawn was docked at Orbital Station Kepler-7, the same station where they first met. Da-hyun was in the cargo bay, checking inventory. The crew was scattered around the station, enjoying shore leave. Yuna stood alone at the main viewport, watching the dock below. Ships came and went. Aliens of all species walked past, carrying luggage and cargo, chasing their dreams across the stars. Then she saw something that made her heart. STOP, a Velrani transport ship, had just docked. Its ramp lowered and a young Velrani woman stepped off. She was wearing ceremonial bride clothes, just like Yuna had worn 5 years ago. And she was alone. Her silver-blue face was blank with shock. Her amber eyes stared at nothing. Yuna did not need to ask what happened. She already knew. She left the ship and walked down to the dock. The young woman looked up as Yuna approached. Fear crossed her face. She probably expected cruelty or indifference. Instead, Yuna extended her hand in the human gesture she had learned to love. "Hello," she said gently. "My name is Yuna. What is your name?" "Jiwoo," the young woman whispered. "They named me Jiwoo." "That is a beautiful name, Jiwoo." Yuna sat down beside her on the dock. "I know what happened to you. I know how you feel right now. I know you think your life is over." Jiwoo started to cry. "I am worthless. I failed. I have nothing. No." Yuna took Jiwoo's hand in hers. "You are not worthless. You did not fail. And you are not alone anymore." Jiwoo looked at this strange Velrani woman who spoke like a human and dressed in unfamiliar clothes. She did not understand what was happening. "Who are you?" Jiwoo asked. "I was you 5 years ago. I sat on this same dock, abandoned and forgotten. I thought my life was over too." Yuna smiled warmly. "But then a kind human sat down beside me and changed everything. And now I am here to do the same for you. Why? Why would you help me?" Yuna thought about Do-hyun, about their crew, about all the people who had received their messages of hope over the years, about the strange, wonderful, emotional species called humans who had taught her that kindness needed no reason. "Because no one should face the universe alone," Yuna said. "Because everyone deserves a second chance. Because sometimes the worst day of your life leads to the best thing that ever happened to you." She stood up and offered her hand again. "Come with me. We have a ship. We have a family. There is room for one more. You can stay with us until you figure out what you want to do with your life. No obligations. No conditions. Just people helping each other." Jiwoo stared at the offered hand. Everything she knew told her this was impossible. There was no such thing as kindness without a price. But the woman standing before her was proof that impossible things could happen. Jiwoo reached out and took Yuna's hand. "Thank you," she whispered. "Welcome to the family," Yuna said. They walked together toward the silver dawn. Above them, the stars shone bright and endless, full of pain and cruelty, but also full of hope. And somewhere in that vast galaxy, 2 people who had once been thrown away were now bringing others home. The story was not ending. It was just beginning again, the way all good stories do. One act of kindness leading to another. One rescued soul becoming a rescuer. An endless cycle of compassion spreading across the stars. Because that was what humans had taught Yuna. That was what Do-hyun had shown her on this very dock. 5 years ago, love was not finite. Kindness was not weakness. And everyone, no matter how broken or forgotten, deserved a chance to shine. The silver dawn lifted off and flew into the endless night. And somewhere behind them on 1,000 worlds, people read their story and felt a little less alone.